What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Tonight we've got Ben Batiste, agent and agency owner, who did $42,664 on his own pen, just personal production in August. He's been in the business for about 3 months now. Had a super impressive start. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Quite the introduction there, Tim. I see you're calling in from North Carolina. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. I can't complain at all.
No complaints. Cool. So I think obviously one of the biggest questions that's going to come to people watching this minds is how the heck are you doing 42K a month? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey over the last couple of months? I think you were buying leads before. Now you're generating leads. Kind of catch us up. Where did you start? And we can kind of go through this journey, this path together and figure it out.
Yeah, so started off with buying leads, right? Didn't know where to go, so went to different vendors, various vendors, right? Trying to just figure out where to go. Spent tons of money on leads, didn't convert them, found out that they were being used or given to other agents, right? So I didn't know even how old they were, how new they were.
Yeah.
Couldn't see the ad set, so I had no idea what was even being advertised. Tried some of the live call transfers. Ultimately just made a couple sales here and there, but just didn't have anything that was really selling or converting over until I met you guys.
Yeah. Okay. And so one of the other things too is I see a ton of people there. There's all these different types of lead vendors, and I see there's marketing companies in every corner of the freaking earth nowadays that are trying to start generating leads for people. Whenever obviously, I'm sure you had some hesitations just meeting us on the internet and everything. Walk us through what that was like, kind of just meeting for the first time on a Zoom call after you saw us on social media, and kind of leading to now, what type of hesitations did you have? Can you unpack that for us?
I mean, it was a bit of, hey, are you guys legit, right? That's the overall question whenever you meet someone for the first time. I mean, ultimately, I think I found you guys through DeFord because I was trying to find a way to get trained, figure out leads, figure out how to get in the business. Not sure one way or the other. I found an email from you guys. Figured out just see what it's all about. Had a call with you. Very skeptical,
Yeah.
Super skeptical. And then, but figured, why not? Ultimately, we're in the business to you take a headfirst dive in the business. So I figured, what's it, it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to kill me. So I may as well, right? So,
yeah. And
ultimately, you couldn't get worse than where I was already at.
Yeah. And so fast forwarding a bit now, you had that moment of I have to make a change. Now is the time. This is the right thing. Now's the right time. Can you unpack what, I think it's been a couple months now. Can you unpack what it looked like in your first month of production, comparing it with your second month of full-time final expense production?
Yeah. So kind of unpacking a little bit. Once we got the lead flow started, I started seeing the ads coming through. And started seeing the sales coming through. I think, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, I think maybe the first half month, right? Because it wasn't even a full month, was about 5K. Then the first full month of actually, working on my own lead generation was a crazy 26K in that month.
Yeah.
So now it's just going, it just keeps going from there, right? Now we're seeing, the 42. My goal for next month is hopefully to be in the 60s, right? Because who doesn't want to keep going up? No, it's a total game changer. I mean, from my own leads, from marketing, the training. I mean, it's one of the best places. I mean, best decision I ever made, hands down.
100%. And I appreciate you sharing that, because one of the things that I think so many people try to peddle in this business is that you're going to be a billionaire tomorrow selling life insurance. And if you just get this one lead source or this or that, it's a combination of things, of training, of scripting, of automated systems, of generating the leads themselves. And I like that you also talked about the fact that there's a J curve, right? There's a start. I think when you and I got together, I think there was a weekend, and then there was a holiday right after that or something, going into July 4th. So literally your first almost 2 weeks was just getting set up, holiday, time off, and all of that as well. So really that 5K in that first 2 weeks was it was pretty interrupted. It wasn't like it was a strong 2 weeks of work. And then your first month was only, 26K, your first full month, which is nothing to bat an eye at, but nothing in comparison to 42K last month. And I'm sure you're going to blow it again out of the water this month as well. So I think that's pretty cool to see, especially for the people that are like, they're hungry, they need the money now, but like there is some patience in this industry that's required. How do you feel talking with prospects now that you've gotten more repetitions under your belt, you've been doing this for a couple months? Like, how do you feel in these calls themselves?
I mean, I understand where the frustration is, right? Like, a lot of people I've been talking to now are right where I was before. It's the, where do I go? Who do I get training from? Who can I, speak with that can help get me over the line if I need help over the line? And ultimately, where do I get leads? That's a huge one. Like, where do you find leads? Do you buy the leads? A lot of people I've been talking to have been, into the live, what was it? The live transfers, which that can run you, 60 to 80 bucks per. So, it's good to be able to have had that experience, and then also have the experience that I have now to be able to say, hey, look, things actually can be different, right? You can get the hands-on support. You can have the hands-on training. You can also have your own leads being marketed to you. So that way you can actually have the career that you want in this industry.
100%. And I mean, dude, you've had one of the fastest kind of like ramp ups or trajectories of anybody I've seen coming into this business. For those that are watching this, that maybe they haven't had a $42,000 month and they're seeing this, like, that is, insane. I would love to do that. What does it actually look like to do $42,000? Like, what is your day-to-day like?
It's a lot of work. So I always tell people, don't expect to make this overnight, right? Don't expect your first 2 months to be in the 20s and 30s and 40s. You got to put the work in. You got to be making at least, what was it making? I think I was doing like 500 calls a day almost. And slowly, as appointments were being set, slowly as I started getting more familiar with the script, as I became more comfortable with what I was talking about, your dials will start to lower. And I think it got to the point where, I made $80 in maybe a month because I was sitting appointments all day. So
you had a week. I wish we would have done a video about it, but you had a $12,900 week on 86.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That was just appointments. So that was where I couldn't make any dials that day because I was just sitting appointments back to back to back because they were all self. Yeah, no, I was pretty stoked. I was like, this is awesome. But I always tell people don't expect that, right? Because it may or may not happen. Leads will come up and down, right? Your appointments will not always show. So you got to make sure that you have the back end. You got to make sure that you know the process of, you got to pick up the phone, make the dials. That's number one. And then everything else slowly will come as well.
100%. So obviously you said you do a lot of work, which, is obviously that's one of the biggest keys of any of this. Like, you're not going to see anything in terms of like substantial success if you're not willing to put the work in. And a lot of this business, when you first get into this business, you have to front load a lot of the effort. Like you said, when you first started off, you're making $500 a day. That's because you have a skill gap that you have to overcome. And then you also have to just make the calls to get the sales. But over time, exactly like you're saying, the effort that you have to put in to get sales, you get way more leverage on your time. But like today, 2 months later, what does an average day for Ben look like? Like, are you working from sun up to sundown every second of the day? Like, you don't even have a second to breathe, and you're eating, while calling, like on the toilet. Like, you don't have any spare time, or what does it actually look like for you?
I mean, I'm a bit crazy, so I'm usually up at 5 a.m. I get ready for my day, get my coffee. I have a 7-month-old that I try to take care of as well, get family time. But usually I'm up and going at 5 a.m. And then we start role play with our agents around 7:30 in the morning. We finish that around 8:30 in the morning. And then from there it's appointments, it's phone calls, and then of course I have other appointments throughout the day as an agency owner, right? So I have other appointments I'm setting with other either other agents or business owners to network. But yeah, no, most of the time after we get done with role play, I'm setting my appointments like I usually do for my sales. I'm making my calls outside of everything else I have scheduled. And then normally I'm done about 5, 6 o'clock at night. That's spent with my family. My wife and daughter are primary. So once my day's over, and then I'm the rest of the days with them.
That's awesome. So you still have plenty of time to spend with your family. Do you work weekends?
I never have. No.
Never worked weekends.
Never have worked weekends. That's my day with my family. I know a lot of people in the industry, they like to do Saturdays just because that's a good pickup day. And I do know it's a great pickup day. I don't know how much I'm losing by not working on Saturdays, but I think that having those 2 days with my family, with my daughter, with my wife, and not working those 2 days, I just know that I have to put in that much more effort Monday through Friday. Yeah. And knowing that, I'll do it, because ultimately what's more important, right? It's family is super important. I'm doing this for my family. And if that's the case, then I'm going to give it everything I got Monday through Friday. Then those 2 days I'm going to spend with them because that's what I'm doing this for anyway.
I love that. And like, for the people that are out there that are watching this and they're saying like, I'm literally selling my soul to write $15K a month or $20K a month.
Sometimes even 5 or 10K a month from what I'm seeing right now. Yeah.
Crazy. What is the difference? Like, how are you able to have this like balance where, I mean, obviously you're waking up at 5 a.m. Like you're still, hustling your ass off if we're being real, but how are you still able to have this balance where you have time with your family, but you're not selling your soul and you still get to enjoy weekends with your wife and your daughter? Like, what do you think is what are the biggest factors at play that are differentiating you from these other people?
A few things, right? So one is structure, super, super structured. I don't waste hardly any time in my day. I mean, maybe it's when I go and grab lunch, I might, lollygag a little bit, but for the most part, it's super, super structured. Like I am from 5 to about 7:30 before we start role play is book of business, right? Let's review our clients. Let's who needs to what, reviewing with the assistant, like getting the day set. 7:30, 8:30. Now it's role play. Now it's getting ready for the day of calling. Figuring out where do we need to work with some of our agents, right? Then after that, boom, calls, dials, and then I have my calendar. My phone will alert me on my next appointment, and then I'll jump off that, move into my appointment, and then I'm really strict on my appointments. I'll usually, if it's coming up to where I need to get off, I'm just like, hey, bye. And if we're in the middle of a conversation, I'll hang up. Just because that time has to stay structured. The moment you get behind in one, you're behind in everything. Now I do allow myself 30 to 45 minutes for lunch just to give myself some breathing room. But but that's typically how the day works, right? It's you got to be structured. You got to be ultimately dedicated to what you're doing. And then once you hit the clock at 6 or 5, whenever you want to end, breathe, relax. That's what that time's for, right? I mean. Because I'm crazy, sometimes I'll go off and drive Lyft occasionally, just for extra income. But that's I don't recommend it. That's just me.
Yeah. And then I think obviously like another piece too is like the way that you're selling insurance with the systems and the processes and the lead generation that you have in place. It's like the equivalent of driving a Ferrari where other people are using like a dog sled. Like the people that will take their cell phone, get a stack of leads that they print out or they get a spreadsheet and they're opening up, right? And then they go in and they do this and then they type in all of the numbers and they call one person at a time and then they run through some terrible script and then they get hung up on a million times and then they just keep calling until their personal cell gets marked as spam. Yep. Comparing that with you literally the instant that someone fills out a form, you have a notification on your phone and you're able to call them. And you can call 3 people at the same time with a local area code. It's like Ferrari and then dog sled. And I think that it allows you, like you're getting so much more leverage on every hour, every minute, every second that you're putting into your day.
It's actually funny you say that because my first IMO that I was with, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I had my first lead that I bought from, I don't remember who it was from. And I was like, hey, so what do I do now? And they go, call it. I was like, cool. So I did that. I got my cell phone out and started calling. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how am I going to get through? I was like, what, 20, 30 leads that I overpaid for. But I was like, how am I going to get through 30 calls in like the next couple hours manually dialing? No one's answering. I called like 5 or 6 times. Didn't really have anything in place. Yeah, it just ridiculous. So yeah,
And you
dialer
have
is
like
key.
a tally mark, and you're marking how many times you've called each lead. Yeah.
No, I wasn't even doing that.
Oh,
It
really?
got to it got to the point where I just couldn't make a phone call. So I think I was getting marked as spam because no one was answering at that point, and then I did have to change my number. So
Well, I can tell
thankfully,
you about what we did when we first started. It was even worse than that.
Yeah, dude. I used to work a stack of mailers. I'd stack them on a clipboard and mark them as this. It's like whenever I put a little tally mark on how many times I hit their door. And after a couple of weeks, if I'd go to an area, I went to Fayetteville, North Carolina for, I don't know, like 2.5, 3 months straight, maybe more, maybe 4 months.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, you would just see like dozens and dozens and dozens of tally marks. And you would just see like the quote. I'd write the quotes down on the back of the page with them.
The trunk of the car was just like in the backseat of the car is just like scattered with paper.
Brochures, paper apps, whatever. It was disgusting. We got a question I wanted to throw out here, and then I'll get back to Ben. Do y'all think cold calling a data list using an auto dialer works? To be clear, B Mace, everything works. Just how well does it work? Like the dog sled will still help you go from it's still moving, but like the dog sled will help you move. It's just like if you're on a dog sled on the highway in a Ferrari or the dog sled itself, like what's going to get you to your house quicker or to your final destination quicker? Probably not the dog sled. Like, can you do that? 100%, man. But like, I definitely would love to hear about your experience afterwards, because cold calling a data list is gonna be a fun time for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think that's fine to do in the beginning if you don't have an option. But like, if you can invest into generating your own leads and then you can use that same auto dialer, you're just going to make more money.
Exactly.
Ben, I want to ask you, because we've been working together for, I think it's about 2 months now.
Yeah.
What do you think has been like the biggest piece of the program, or like what has been your favorite part of working with us that you think has like helped propel you to this level?
Two things. The training. Well, training, number one. That's been, for me, that was number one, right? Then the marketing aspect too. But you can market and get leads, but if you don't know what to do with the leads, you know what good is having it? But at the same time, it's the same thing. Like, you need training. Actually, no, training's number one, because you need the training before you can do anything else. So I would say that was number one. Then the leads were the second part of it. Thankfully, we were kind of getting it at the same time. So I was able to practice kind of what was being taught but I went through all the videos, listened to pretty much every call recording I could do. I pulled all my call recordings every day. I mean, I sat down with my wife and we would even go over call recordings together and be like, hey, what do you think? I mean, I think I even put myself out there a few times and just sent it to you guys as well. Just said, hey, like, blast me. I don't care. Like, tell me if this is the right way to do it or not. But that's ultimately, I think, how I was able to improve, right? Is by watching everything, by talking things through, by just that support.
100%.
So yeah, I'd say number one, training. Then of course the lead generation, but number one is training.
Yeah. Go ahead, William.
I was just gonna say, I saw like a question here about like an opinion on a certain IMO and like what some tips were about getting started. And I just wanted to echo what Ben said. I think the most important things when you're getting started is tying yourself to people with results. And I'm not just saying like my results, like maybe you don't want my results or Ben's results where we're doing 40+ K per month. Like maybe that's not what you want. If you want to work with someone who is doing 20K a month, like just make sure they have social proof. I would say like Tim got into the business with me, but I hadn't even like really sold any insurance, and I like accidentally recruited him, and he basically got trained by somebody who'd been selling for insurance for 2 or 3 weeks, which is pretty much how most people learn. And like it worked out. We got lucky because I had a prior sales experience, but like that's not a good business plan if you're out on your own on an island getting into someone's downline that's been selling for 2 weeks and they're not making the income that you want, and they're telling you about how much money you can make, but they can take your phone call whenever because they don't have any deals on the board. So I'd say like echoing what Ben says here, like the most important things I think you can have to answer your question, Isaac, is like, if I could break it down into a few things, is like one, structure and discipline. Like Ben's talking about showing up every day, same time, keeping things organized. mentorship and training, I think, are super valuable from people who have results, right? People who have gone where you want to go, people who are going where you want to be. I think that's super huge. And Ben, I'm curious, like, what would you kind of say has been the biggest thing for you to see success early on? Like, as a beginner, what was the number one thing, if you had to pin it down to one, that you would say?
That number one. Sorry, say it one more time. I just want to make sure I'm following.
That's fine. The biggest thing that you would say, because like Isaac asked in the chat, biggest question, like, what is the biggest thing that you could take away and say, hey, like, this is what made me successful early on, versus like one of the 92% of people that fail?
Got it. Yeah. No. Training, number one. But the other part too, I think you were touching on it, is, and I was trying to remember a quote that I like to recite a lot. I'm just running a blank on what it was. It basically, it's as a group or as a team, right? We all succeed. But if you're out on it trying to do it your own, that's where you fail off. Like, we can't be at this alone. And so those are the two key points. Is, the group that's set up for this, during this training program, for everything. That's part of it. You can bounce off with other people. You can discuss, hey, here's where I'm having issues. Then you can jump onto the sales training as well. You can then go through the role plays, like the whole thing, because it's one thing to be trained and then run off on your own. It's another thing to actually be immersed, right? And so that, I think, would be number one. Well, it's two, but I bundle it into one.
That's awesome.
100%. And I know now you're building an agency, which is like incredible at the stage that you're in the business. What for people that, because I mean, everyone gets into the industry, or I won't say everyone, but a lot of people, majority of people, get into the industry with the goal of building an agency, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is, from your early experience with building an agency, what do you think is like the biggest, like, when someone's getting into it, at what point can they start looking at doing that?
I would say the time that you want to start building is when you are able to teach confidently to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can sell, you can definitely make money, but can you pass on what you know? Can you take what was told to you and taught to you, and are you able to pass that on? And how effective are you at that?
Yeah.
If you're not effective at it, I would wait until you're able to actually effectively pass it on, because ultimately, as an agency owner, right, you are then going to need to train others. You need to make sure that you're building them up so that way they can make the sales that they need to make and help them be successful. And ultimately, that's what I want to do. I want to pass that on. But I would say that's typically what I would say would be where kind of where that step is are you comfortable in that part of it, and do you feel you'll be successful in that area?
100%. I think that's a really good point, because we see out there a lot is just the blind leading the blind. Like, somebody gets into the industry, they make 2 sales, and then next thing you know, they're going to build the biggest agency in the world. It's like,
Yeah.
they recruit their 3 best friends, and then everybody fails.
Yeah.
Which is actually, that sounds like the story of how I got into the business. I want to open it up to Q&A. What questions do you guys have for Ben as far as like how he was able to write $42K in a month?
We'll wait for those to kind of drop in. Usually there's a bit of a delay here. People jump on and it's catching up. We're a few minutes ahead of them. So while they're coming up with those questions here in the chat, I think like one of the things that's super important that I've taken away is like, you have a business mind. You have a mind for business, not just a mind for sales. And I think one of the biggest, like, I don't want to say scams because that's such an overplayed word, but like one of the biggest misleading factors of this industry is people think it's a sales job, but it's actually a business with a sales component.
Right.
And I want to understand, like, what are some of the business practices that you have that's helping you stay organized, or just like a tip that you have for running this as a business as well as still keeping your sales up, and how that's helping you progress?
Yeah, no. So starting this out, I actually didn't think of it as sales. I thought it was as a business. That was the first thing I went into before I got into the industry was, I want to create a business. What's that going to be? That was my first question. Ultimately, I landed in life insurance. But to me, I even now, I don't feel like it's sales. I feel like it's consulting. I feel like it's more of a helping clients find what they need in life insurance. And to me, that's just more businessy. So the way I tackle it is, what does a business need? Well, one, we need income. Right? You have to maintain your income. You have to maintain your outflow. In and out, right? And you got to make sure that you're not overspending. But then and so the way that we make our money, obviously, is through sales or through the life insurance side. But if you don't come into that from the very beginning, right, and just coming in and saying, I'm going to sell, well, now you have to worry about the back end, right? What about your clients that are needing help? What about, the administrative tasks that are all involved in business making, the taxes that are involved, the books, right? So what I did is I set that up from the beginning because I was thinking about it as a business from the very beginning. And that I don't know if that fully answered the question, but that was my mindset coming into this.
No, I think that's really good. And I think the biggest thing is, like, I know you track your numbers. You're keeping up with if people are charging back. You have to call them up, get them back on the books. And a lot of people, I think one of the other misnomers is, like, if somebody charges back, they're just like, man, my chargebacks are just tough. But it seems like you might have a system kind of dialed in for getting clients back on the books. I know you have an assistant and everything now. This has really been scaling fast for you. Help me understand, for the people in the crowd that are like, wow, my chargebacks are crazy, I never call my clients back. Like, what are you doing to kind of keep people on the books, keep them in their plans? Because, I mean, ultimately they want it. It's just a matter of them being able to pay it or the date or whatever. Like, catch us up on that.
Yeah. So what I do is I have a tracking system. So basically, whenever I write a policy, it goes into the CRM, right? The automations will go out to them for the reminders. But also on the back end, I have a tracker. So what happens is I put that person in, whether it's underwriting, whether it's issue paid, and then it's going to send out a reminder to myself. It's going to send out a reminder to the assistant. It's going to be pinging on my phone. And it's going to say, hey, it's been, first payment's due on X date. And then what I'll do is we'll reach out, we'll call and be like, hey, your payment's coming up soon. How has everything been going for you? How are you? And then let's say they make the first payment. Well, then another reminder is going to go out about 2 days before that second payment. Again, phone call is going to go out or a text. Hey, how are you? How's life? How are the kids? Just so you know, you have another payment coming up soon. How's it's been going for you? Whatever. I have reminders going out for birthdays. I have reminders going out for anniversaries, for kids' birthdays. There's a client that I had that ended up in the hospital, where I sent her a text just saying, hey, you'll be receiving your policy here soon. And she said, I'm sorry, I'm in the hospital. I'll get back to it later. I set an appointment, or I set a reminder for myself, and I called her and I said, hey, how was your time in the hospital? So we're always keeping touch points with our clients and making sure that they feel that they are number one with us. And ultimately they are. Like, they are our clients, and I want to do everything I can for them. And so I make sure that we have something in place where we can always stay up to date with them. And so our chargebacks are low, but then if we do get a chargeback, the first thing I'm doing is we're calling out and finding out what happened. Like, hey, was it a cancellation? Did you not like the policy? Like, something I did wrong? Sometimes you may not be able to get them back ultimately, but we do try our best to see where we went wrong with that, if we did.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I think the thing is, like, this is just another added point as to how you treat this like a business as opposed to what most people do, which is like, when Julian and I asked our upline, what should we do if we get a chargeback? The answer was, with a super, like, backwoods North Carolina accent, write more business. That was the system. That was the answer, period, in a sentence. Look, boys, you just need to write more business.
Like, there was no rhyme or reason. Exactly. Don't even call them back. Just go write more business. And if you did that, you were going to. That was the answer. What it was. So just like seeing the difference of that versus what you're doing to see the success that you're seeing, and what the other agents in our program that have all the automations and stuff built out for them. It's just such a contrast from what most people are doing. I want to ask you one more question, then I want to kind of give you a chance to tell people where they can reach you if they want to learn more about joining your agency.
Yeah.
But if you were to go back to Ben, it's September. I think we started working together in June, and you could go back in time in a time machine and talk to Ben back then. What would be the biggest piece of advice that you would give to yourself or just to somebody in your position to help them get to where you are now?
Oh man! Besides the pep talk,
that could be your answer. If that's
I definitely would have been giving myself some major pep talks for sure. But maybe things will keep pushing, right? That was what I was telling myself even then. Keep pushing. It's going to work out. Things are going to be great. But I think knowing what I know now, if I was to go back to myself then, I would definitely say, hey, you need to actually market yourself. That would be first and foremost. I mean, I was already seeking the training. Just it was a matter of where do I find it. I didn't honestly. The last piece of my mind was marketing. So that's where I would go. I would be like that little birdie on my shoulder, and I'd just be like, hey, market yourself. Like get the name out. Like that's right. Like you're still seeking the training, but yeah.
Awesome. So obviously we got to wrap things up here. It's getting late for the ladies and gentlemen in the audience, and obviously I know you got to get to hanging out with your family and everything. If somebody wanted to learn from an agent like yourself, doing $42K a month, building an agency, definitely a lot to learn from you. Where would they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn. You can see our Facebook as well, which is Batiste Family Life on Facebook. And then where else are we? Oh, and then you can also visit our website too. It's going to be www.bbinsurance.services. So that's our website. I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always responding to people on our Batiste Family Life Facebook page. So you can definitely hit us up there.
Awesome. So Batiste is Batiste. For those of you that are wondering in the video, in the replay, that Batiste Family Life is the Facebook page, and then Ben Batiste on LinkedIn is a good place to find you. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Batiste Family Life, Batiste. That's our. We're on Facebook there as well. LinkedIn, under my name, Ben Batiste. You can also find my business there too.
Amazing.
Hit me up.
Man. Awesome. Well, dude, keep rocking and rolling. Guys, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace.